Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit, and we're going to finish our mock drafts 17 through 32. But if you haven't seen 1 through 16, go check that out on YouTube, Facebook, and all podcasting platforms. Easy for me to say, but Maddie, we'll just get right into it with pick 17 with the Las Vegas Raiders. And yes, I said Las Vegas for once.
You got it.
And for me, I know a lot of people have this guy going to Minnesota earlier, and as a Vikings fan, I would love it, even though you know how I feel about offensive linemen. But could he pay? Could he pay to Vegas?
Anybody on there, anybody on the defensive side of the ball is going to help with them. I've gone for the secondary. That the Raiders have always been the kind of team to kind of, like, if they see an injured guy, they'll pick him up and they'll be more driven. And Caleb Farley, I think they're going to stop the slide on Caleb Farley. I would like to see the Cowboys take it, to be perfectly honest, but I understand if they want to play it safe and take Patrick Surtain. But Caleb Farley has a huge upside. If that injury isn't that bad, if it isn't as bad as people fear, and Caleb Farley's the guy, he's the most talented guy in the draft. He's rapid, he's got size, he's a good he'd be a great cornerback to come in and make a difference straight away. And the Las Vegas Raiders have had amongst the worst secondary in the league for the past 3 years in a row.
I don't disagree with you. I think that would be a good pick for them too. But with Kwity Paye, for me, he's, to me, the number one defensive lineman in the draft, falling that far. He's the only one that is set and ready to play day one. The other guys maybe after training camp, but the other guys are a lot of raw talent. Not that he's not raw talent, but he has a lot bigger skill set than some of them. And I think it's their chance to replace the pass rush they got from trading off Khalil Mack, which anybody who understands the NFL knows they had to, because at that point, the Davis family did not have enough money to write these checks. He is the only one who is not a billionaire that owns a team. So he needed that Vegas money to be able to, because they have to write those checks. As soon as you sign a guy, you have to put it in a holding account, and, you know. So I think for them to get a guy to replace Khalil Mack and a guy who's ready to start day one, and I never thought I would say this when they hired him, but I'm really impressed with Mike Mayock as a GM, so I think it'd be a great pick for them.
Yeah, I've got Kwity Paye going to the Giants, so that works for me. I've just taken the best defensive guy off my board, which was Caleb Farley. That was still left.
And I think that's great because they have a decent secondary, but they could really make it a strength of that defense and lock it down.
As long as the injuries, all right. Obviously, if you're worried about the injury, you can take Greg Newsome II, Asante Samuel, Jalen Phillips. There's all sorts of guys that you can take that are still on the board, ready to go on the defensive side of the ball. And then we move on to our first team that have a second pick in the draft, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Now, I've got them taking Kyle Pitts first up at number 6. And then I thought, let's double down. Let's get an interior offensive lineman. And I know he's already gone on your board, but I still have Elijah Vera Tucker on mine. So Elijah Vera Tucker to the Miami Dolphins. Give to us some protection for the interior offensive line. Probably improves the run game. I play him at guard, personally. It gives you some, it gives you depth at tackle, but I play him at guard.
But he's also a guy, if something happens to one of your tackles, you can swing him out if there's an injury. Yeah. The only reason I don't start him and think that he's a full-time tackle, short arms, and I think that his quickness and his movement and his great feet fit him perfectly for the interior of a defense, and I think he's a plug-and-play day one starter at guard.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of guy, straight to step in at guard. Who have you got the Dolphins going for?
I got them taking the big old defensive tackle from Alabama, Christian Barmore.
Yeah, I've got him going to the Cowboys at 10. Yep.
Right. I figured for my draft board, I gave them a receiver at the top of the draft with the Dolphins. So I figured let's beef up this defense. And a lot of people are like me and believe that games are won in the trenches. So let's beef up that defensive line. Let's pressure the quarterback, and let's get to us some weapons in the first round. I thought, shit, that's a great draft for them.
Yeah, you've already taken a lot of your offensive linemen off the board already as well. So,
Yeah, I
like,
have them running in a cluster. My whole draft seems to
yeah,
fall into clusters.
I've got that happening. My offensive linemen haven't really come off the board yet. So I've got plenty of offensive linemen still to take. I like that. I like that call. I think the Dolphins have a strong defense. Brian Flores is a strong defensive coach. You've picked a wide receiver to help out Tua and then go to the other side of the ball and get 2 first-round picks. And Christian Barrymore is the best defensive tackle in the draft. So if he falls that far, you've got to be licking your lips if you're the Dolphins to have picked up one of the premium weapons. Pitts for me, Chase for you, and then Barrymore for you as well. He's a premier defensive tackle who I actually have going to the Dallas Cowboys because I have them being scared of taking Caleb Farley and Patrick Surtain going to the Broncos. That it'll all change by mock draft number 2 that we do.
I think the only thing that this really proves is how much freaking talent is in these first. I don't even want to say first round, these first 3 rounds of the draft. Like, there's a lot of talent. You're going to get starters instead of just depth at a lot of these positions in 3 rounds of this draft.
Yeah, and I mean, we know there are going to be busts. Like, we're not the kind of people who are like, oh my God, every one of these guys is going to work. But when you look at them, when you look at your tape, you think, yeah, these guys have definite NFL potential. And Barrymore's a really good defensive tackle. Elijah Vera Tucker's still there on my board, and he's the best offensive lineman that I've got after Slater and Penei Sewell. So now we move on. And for those of you who watched the first one, I said that the Washington football team trade up to get, they sell the farm to get up to the Falcons at 4. So I'm now picking for the Falcons at 19. And you'll never guess who's still on my board.
Well,
Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is still on my board. And if you're the Falcons, you are happy with that deal. If you trade out of 4, you're going to get a lot of draft picks for that move. The Washington football team get their quarterback. I've got them taking Mac Jones. Justin Fields is acceptable too. And the Falcons take Devontae Smith. And you're really happy if you're getting that many picks and Devontae Smith.
And it's not that crazy because wide receivers fall all the time. And me and you don't have a problem with it, but we don't know if NFL teams have a problem with his body type.
That's why I think people take Chase first. They take Pitts first, and then Chase is going to the Eagles, and then Devontae Smith. And I understand it if some people are like, oh, I don't want to waste my the teams that need wide receivers come later on in the draft anyway. Like, most of these teams in front of them don't need that many wide receivers, or it's not a pressing need.
On your board, I would draft Smith also, but it wouldn't shock me if they went with a guy like Waddle or something. But I think you're right, nailing it, because at some point you got to, not that you're going to replace him, but you have to replace Julio.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to step forward to replace Matt Ryan right now, we'll give him another weapon, give him a guy that can learn under Julio for a couple of years and maybe become your number 1 receiver. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I was pretty happy when they started asking about for calls as well. They've started asking about for calls recently. So the Washington football team don't have a quarterback. Like, they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, but they don't have a quarterback that's known to get people to the playoffs. And Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of knows what he's doing with a rookie quarterback, doesn't he? So if you get Fields in there, Mac Jones, they'd be my 2 that fall to 4, or Trey Lance. If you're that way inclined, you can trade up to a lot of teams now that the Panthers have screwed up our board a little bit. But, there are a few teams there. And the Falcons, they get a wide receiver weapon for Matt Ryan to play on the other side of Julio Jones. And if Devontae Smith is the guy that a lot of people say that he is, you've got a wide receiver for the next 10 years.
And then for me, I still have the Washington football team sitting here. Yeah. I was really thinking about trading back because they need a quarterback, and me and you are both big fans of Kellen Mond. So
I was thinking that.
Maybe trade back to the end of the first round and get that 5th-year option, even though people go, it's a reach. But if you're in the late 20s, early 30s, you get that 5th round pick or year on a quarterback, or that 5th-year pick, 5th-year option on a quarterback. I can talk today. Well, I'm telling you. But I kept them right here because I think They could use a lot of help, and I love their defense. So let's just make it better with Notre Dame's linebacker, Jeremiah Usia. I botch it every freaking time. So
Koromoa.
there you go.
I've been learning it today. Jeremiah
but I've heard you
Owusu
nail it
Koromoa.
before, so I let you do it.
Yeah, I love that idea of them trading back, though. I think that would really make sense. If they haven't done my trade forward, then they could trade back to someone like the Bills, who are going to be in the market for a pass rusher. With there's Jalen Phillips on the board. There's still Jeremy Owusu Koromoa, Jason Owe still on the board. Like, there's plenty of players still there for the Bills to potentially go up and want to take from these other teams that are looking to improve their pass rush. So if you trade back to the Bills and then you take a Calamond or Kyle Trask and just take the shot, what are Washington going to lose? That, as a Cowboys fan, it sickens me to say their roster's solid. It's not like they have one of the top position groups everywhere. Like, whoever they pick here is going to improve.
No, but they got a lot
group.
of B's. They got a lot of B's on that team.
Yeah. Whoever they take here, you can say can improve that position group that they're going to take. Like Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, he improves their linebacker core. Definitely a great pick. But if they want to take a shot for a quarterback this year, then go for it. Then take a Kyle Trask or a Calamond. They may be able to trade up in the end of the second round. They may be able to trade up to like the Bucks, the Chiefs, the Bills from the second round up as well and get 2 first-round picks and take that kind of direction. I like all of those moves. If I'm the Washington GM, I'm looking to be aggressive in this.
Well, they're in a bad spot, which puts them in a great spot. You're not a very good team, so you can do whatever you want at that position.
Yeah, and you're thinking just be aggressive. Yeah,
they need.
You don't look at any of that. Yeah, you don't look at any of their position groups and think, God, this is awful. You think a couple of stars in this team would really, and a quarterback like Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be fun to watch for the Washington football team. But he doesn't scare me.
If they got a quarterback for the future, then your future is looking bright, because who you can bring in free agency to be another star. You can overpay a guy or two with a guy in a rookie contract to beef up certain places. And next thing you know, they're in the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, the Giants have proved twice anything can happen.
I mean, we'll say all this, and then the play the whole time will be they're going to get Jimmy Garoppolo before the draft and give up that first rounder to get Jimmy Garoppolo, and then
Daniel Snyder's still the owner. They'll figure out how to fuck this up.
Yeah, they'll really find a way to mess this up. But again, look out for them trading for just being aggressive for a quarterback. So Jimmy Garoppolo, you have Ryan Fitzpatrick for when Jimmy undoubtedly gets injured, and like that wide receiver call with Jimmy Garoppolo would be good to watch, unless you're a Dallas Cowboys fan or a Giants fan or an Eagles fan. But they're in a good position and they should be aggressive with their picks. The Bears are up next. What have you got?
At number 20, I got the Bears taking a stud of an edge rusher, but he's just pure raw talent at this point, and it's Miami Gregory Rousseau.
Yeah, Gregory Rousseau.
Yes, I had to. Yeah. I'm telling you, I can't speak today. There's something going on in my life right now where I went from sunny weather to cloudy weather, and I think it took all my speaking ability away. Good raw talent, natural pick. That's why I've got him going to the Patriots earlier on, because like if there's going to be somewhere where a defensive guy who's just pure raw talent is going to go, then the Patriots is a good spot. Another team that could trade back also.
Yeah, and or trade forward, or trade up, with the Panthers getting Sam Darnold, then you could say, well, you've only got to trade past the Broncos now, and then you've got QB4 off the board. Yeah.
Or maybe you trade for a Teddy Bridgewater or Jimmy G, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, someone like that. Yeah. But I don't think they're aggressive enough to do that. Hence why they got Andy Dalton, not an aggressive pick.
Now, the only reason I put Teddy up there first is because I think you can get Teddy for a 4th or a 5th.
Yeah.
Where maybe even a 6th just to get him off their books because of the cap hit of 10 to 17 million. But for the Bears, I mean, take a shot. You ain't got a quarterback of the future. Sure, Andy Dalton's solid, but how much longer has he got back in the league? And he ain't going to win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm just
Not
saying,
with the.
you ain't losing nothing by taking the shot. I'm not giving up a first for Garoppolo. I'm not even giving up a second. But if I'm the Bears and they say, give us a third and a fourth this year and next, like switch them up, then I'm cool. Let's go get Jimmy G and see what happens. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire either, but I think they're both better than Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, and with my board, I've got something that would make sense for if Andy Dalton is still your QB. And that's Jalen Waddle, who's still on my board. And Jalen Waddle opposite Allen Robinson, who they franchise tag. We don't know how long he's going to be there for. It does sound like he kind of wants to get out. Then Jalen Waddle makes a lot of sense. The offensive side of the ball for the Bears is terrible. And you can blame it on Trubisky all you want, and you would be right. But you need weapons. You could probably do with it more like another solid offensive lineman. Like there's plenty of stuff the Bears can do to improve that offense. And Jalen Waddle is the best offensive player still on my board. So Jalen Waddle it is.
Well, then we move on to the Colts at 21. And I have them taking Penn State edge rusher Jason Owen. Yeah. And that's because I feel like nobody's ever set, mind you, but their offense is set at this point. Like, let's go get some wins. Let's make this defense was what anchored this team last year. The offense is up and coming. It all depends on Carson Wentz, but I think Frank Reich gets the best of him, gets the best, the best out of him. So I double down on the defense, and I just go get a guy who's going to make it rough on the quarterback.
Yeah, I think I've gone for the same line of thinking. I think you could also, for the Colts, say another offensive lineman if your evaluation thinks it's good value. If you're,
I agree.
There is still a great offensive lineman on my board, and that's Christian Darrisaw. But if you think he's good value, if you think if you want to go take another weapon to make that offense even more exciting, because they did want to have a really good defense last year. It wasn't like they had a garbage defense, but I've gone for the same thinking as you, and I've taken Jalen Phillips over Jason Owe. I think Phillips offers a bit more off the edge. I know Owe's more of just a big body, like freak kind of guy, but Jalen Phillips, if he's cleared from the injuries also, like he had to retire in 2018 because of the concussions, but you would imagine if he was allowed to come back, then he's kind of got past all of that. So I think Jalen Phillips is my number one edge rusher. That's left.
And I agree with you on offensive line, but me and you have had this conversation before. There's a lot of good offensive linemen you pick up.
Yeah, you can take
round.
Yeah,
so
easy.
At this point in the draft, a lineman would kind of be a reach. So let's go get a guy who's going to kill the quarterback. And
I think it's an offensive lineman. If your offensive line is terrible, is okay to take in the first round. So the Bengals need one. So go take one.
Right, but
Chargers always need them. But 21, yeah. And there's plenty of
guys are gone. So it's like there's the difference between who's left now and who you can get in the second and third round isn't huge. Anymore.
Isn't huge. Right. Yeah. And then let's move on to the Titans. I'm sorry, Colts fans, if you're listening, but you've got you've got a good roster. Like, just pick the most talented guy off the board, and an edge rusher always makes a difference, doesn't he? So Jalen Phillips is a good guy for you. So Tennessee Titans for you, mate.
Because injuries make me a little bit more leery because I don't have doctors. I kind of stay away from them more on my draft because it's hard to predict. So for Tennessee, I figure you need a cornerback with your offseason moves. And so I'm going to give you Northwestern's Greg Newsome II.
Yeah, Greg Newsome comes off the top of my board very soon. He's the I'm stuck between him and Asante Samuel Jr., who it's kind
of another
like,
guy who grew up in an NFL locker room.
Yeah, if you're confident on Asante Samuel's abilities, then you go for him. But Greg Newsome is bigger, and I'm not a guy who normally picks size. It sounds like I am with with what I've done to Devontae Smith, but it's just NFL teams will look at it and they think, would we prefer to take this guy and put him in? He's got good skills. I would say Asante Samuel is more talented than Greg Newsome in terms of reading the game, but in terms of size and just ability, and if you feel like you could train him up, then Greg Newsome's a guy to take. I have the Titans fixing their offensive line with Christian Darrisaw, who has fallen this far. He's easily a top. Like, you could convince me he was a top 15 pick. Like, definitely he could be a top 15 pick. I've just got him falling out. So Christian Darrisaw is a good pick for me.
I like it. I think it's a good pick. I think Tennessee's a good team who just needs to add depth, and they're going to make a run. And Tannehill's impressed all of us. Derrick Henry's a beast. A.J. Brown can ball. I mean, they lost a really good tight end, but I think they'll be fine. I think their defense is where they hang their hat. I think that's a great pick. Yeah,
and with the Titans, you could also say their wide receiver core has been a bit decimated. You could take a wide receiver, but with Christian Darrisaw still on my board and Greg Newsome on your board, they're better value than the Terrence Marshall Jr.'s, the Kadris Tonys, like those kind of guys. They're better value than those guys. Not saying that those guys are bad or anything. It's just they're better value at that pick. Christian Darrisaw, Greg Newsome the second. And then the Jets, their second pick of the first round, I have Greg Newsome the second.
Okay, and then I went with an edge rusher in Ajulari out of Georgia.
Yeah, Aziz Ajulari. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I figured I'm going to get his first name. I would have, and the way I'm talking, I mean, I might have botched his first name. The way I'm talking, we're just going with the name I know and the last name.
And he is a great, a really good edge rushing prospect. Also played a bit of linebacker, I think. I read that somewhere. I'm not entirely sure, but kind of a defensive freak, like that kind of guy that you want on your board when you're trying to revamp a whole team. Then he makes a lot of sense. You don't have Greg Newsome on your board anymore, but Greg Newsome again, really good value pick. The Jets just need help, so. The Jets just should be taking the best guy off the board. But if the best guys off the board also fit a need, then go that way.
Absolutely. And they're a team, like, they're just rebuilding. They can take whatever they think is the best player on the board and go from there, which is always a horrible place to be in when you're playing, but a great place to be in when you're in the draft. Great place to be in
for the draft. And they've taken Zach Wilson first up. So you could say, do you want to get Zach Wilson a bit of help? Well, at this point, it's the help can come in the second draft. You're picking at the top of the second round as well. So there'll be a Rashad Bateman there for you to take if you want to get a wide receiver. There'll be possibly a Tevin Jenkins, a Dylan Radzu, like that kind of guy if you want offensive line help.
Alignment, defense alignment. There's a couple good tight ends. The only reason people aren't talking about them is because Kyle Pitts is an anomaly.
Yeah, but there's a few good tight ends. I was looking at them and
off the top of my head, I kind of forget his name, but the kid from Penn State reminds me a lot of Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? There's guys that are going to be good. It's just that you have such a freak athlete as the number one. And unless you're a supreme tight end, you don't go in the first round anyway. But the Jets are in a great spot where they're going to be able to put weapons around who we believe is Zach Wilson, but it's yet to be seen.
Talk saying that it's Justin Fields. I know you don't. So I know you don't want that.
You think the Jets are going to take Justin Fields? At
no, I think they'll take. No, I think they'll take Zach Wilson. I've just heard it uttered in a few places.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, I'm not going crazy. Like, I'm not going crazy.
Oh no, I thought that you were like somebody had convinced you. I've been convinced before by listening to other people. So
no, there was a few people. Florio said he was talking to an assistant coach, possibly with the Jets. He doesn't name anything. That says, they're convinced they're going to be taking Justin Fields, and it's like they're going to take Zach Wilson.
I'd like to see him take. I'd like to see him take somebody else just to throw the draft order into chaos. But you know me, I like to live in chaos.
If the 49ers see Zach Wilson at 3, then they're going to be a very good team.
A party in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So 24 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you got?
So a lot of the time I say you can't improve your running game just by getting a running back. But this running back, I've watched some film, and it's a bit of a stretch for a running back, I agree. But you watch him and you think this guy makes plays by himself. And even if he's only able to do that for 3 years, as most running backs are, Ezekiel Elliott, then Najee Harris could be a good running back for them to take in the first round. I just think with Big Ben there's going to be wide receivers next year. I know they're saying this wide receivers class is incredible, but there's going to be wide receivers next year. There's offensive linemen in the second round, which we've already said, and go get a premium running back, like to play. Like sometimes just putting guys behind a semblance of an offensive line who can just make plays, hurdle guys. Najee Harris is a top quality running back, and I would take him off the board.
For any other team, I would say no in the first round. I'm almost of the Mel Kiper school of, unless they're an extremely gifted, you have never seen this before, Christian McCaffrey, don't touch a running back in the first round. But this is Pittsburgh football. I hate to shit on a guy like James Conner because of everything he's been through in his personal life, cancer survivor, everything. But the guy is not a number one running back. He doesn't have that quick burst that you need. He is a very solid switch it up guy. I think this is a perfect pick for the Steelers. Also because I don't have as much faith in the Steelers as everybody else does to be the Steelers next year of old. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're washed up. I don't think they're done. I think they'll figure it all out and get back to Steeler football. But I think we're in a down kind of rebuilding season for the Steelers. So I really like that pick, but for me, with the loss of Bud Dupree, I was like, Tulsa's linebacker, Xavier Collins. Let's do something on that defense. Let's replace Bud Dupree and keep this defense moving.
Yeah, I think they've got I think their defense is a definite strength, and there's no harm in upping your strength. And Bud Dupree is a guy that they would miss. You know how much I love Xavier Collins. I picked him for your Vikings up there. I think he's a real playmaker, the kind of guy that you can just put in and say, go, and he'll make a play. I do like improving their defense, replacing Bud Dupree. I just think it'll get Pittsburgh fans a bit more excited as well. You know, like sometimes your first draft pick, like you build a team in your second, third, fourth picks, but sometimes your first round pick can also be to kind of show, hey, look, we're trying to fix this. Like, you know,
I don't
even
think
though you're not necessarily, the
Steelers
don't get into that, but
I don't think they care about appeasing their fan base in the off season, because if we win in the regular season, you all will be happy anyway. So be mad now and you'll see what we did later.
Yeah, I just think they're already a bit like it's not like Najee Harris isn't a first round talent if you want to draft running backs. It's not like they're not improving by getting him. And also if you're deciding between the two, then you can say, well, our fans will love this, so let's just go for it. And you get a playmaker behind. And I love Xavier Collins. He's already off my board. Otherwise, he would have gone to quite a few of these teams already. But he's already off my board. So,
yeah. Well, moving on to another team with 2 picks in the first round, going from number 1 overall, who we all assume they're going to take our man Trevor Lawrence, but the Jacksonville Jaguars. And because you took Trevor Lawrence, I have him taking Oklahoma State offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins, because let's protect the investment we just made at pick 1.
Yeah, I can definitely go for that. And Tevin Jenkins in most other drafts is an easy first round talent offensive lineman. Like, he's a big dude, moves guys. Like, when you look at I love when you look at Tevin Jenkins' picture on the on like ESPN, and he's wearing your glasses, and you think like, what is this? What are you doing? And
he looks like he's going to math club or science club.
Yeah, and you see the guy play, and you're like, rah, like absolutely moving guys off the ball, plays angry as well. I really like Tevin Jenkins as a guy. They have a decent offensive line. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's going to retire. He's going to retire soon. That they could do with replacing, and Tevin Jenkins would be a good guy. But they're also picking first in the second round of the draft, where they can get a Dylan Radzu. There's some other guys who I forget. I've not been looking through the second round of the draft too much. It's the guys on the fringe that I would have taken in the first. But Dylan Radzu is the kind of guy that I want to fall to the Cowboys in the second round. But the Jaguars can take him if they're looking to do that kind of thing. I've gone for a safety, and now safety isn't something that you normally take in the first round.
No, but you are in the part of the draft where if you are going to take one in the first round, we moved back up for Harrison Smith years ago, and that was a good move. So it depends on the safety, but you're right.
And when this is your second round pick, your second pick of the round, then there's more of an excuse. Everybody's going to be looking at Trevor Lawrence. Like, that's what they're going to be looking at. So it doesn't matter what you pick. Just pick something that makes your team better. And Trayvon Moehrig is an absolute beast. He's the kind of guy that you watch when you play rugby. We have a position in rugby called fullback, for those of you who don't know. And they're the guys who, the last line of defense, very much the safety of the rugby team. And they just do anything to stop a guy, tackle with their head on the wrong side of the ball. And Trayvon Moehrig, if somebody catches a ball over the top, he's going to be there just to wipe him out and take a hit. And he's a good guy to have on the team.
He's another guy that'll come up and play that run for you too, though. So he's, you don't have to worry about that. He can almost play a small linebacker if you needed him to. So
he's a pinball, man. He'll play anywhere and just hit something. And that's sometimes something that you need. Like the Cowboys defense all of a sudden started playing some half decent football last year once Wilson came in and started smoking people, like just sometimes having those hard hitting guys. The guy who, I can't remember his name. We're having a real problem with names at the minute, but the Bengals guy wiped out Juju Smith-Schuster. The Bengals started playing some decent defense.
Perfect.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not entirely sure, but when you just have somebody who makes those hard hits, and the Jags could do with somebody to bring some boom back, and Trayvon Moehrig is a good defender. PFF actually have him on their big board as the 17th best player in the draft class, which is pretty impressive. But how safeties drop, and if they want, they could probably switch that around. They could probably take a Taven Jenkins and swap around and take Trayvon Moehrig at the top of the second round if they really wanted to as well. But I just think the guy deserves his shot in the first round.
Well, moving on to 26 to what I would call mine and Maddie's maybe sweetheart team last year. From a team we really were excited to watch because of the way they're building with the Cleveland Browns. Where do you have the Cleveland Browns going?
I just said take the best player on the board. So whoever the best player is left on the board, just take him. For that, for me, that's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And you think, imagine him, just plug him into that defense and just say go. Like a big playmaker. Just whoever the best player on their board is. It's a very similar thing to the Washington football team where they have no real weaknesses. It's very at the same level. You can say their secondary is a weakness, but was their secondary not just young and started to grow in the playoffs last year? And if you want to add a secondary guy, then go for it. I don't really have that many who can still do it, who is still worth that pick on my board. Maybe an Asante Samuel, but Jeremy Owusu-Koramoah, he'll just come in and just whack people smash people off the ball. And one
of us can speak today. Way to nail that. One of us can speak today. But I don't disagree with you, but because they were kicking the tires on J.J. Watt, and we hear they're kicking the tires on Clowney, and they want another edge rusher, I went with the other Miami edge rusher in Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, yeah, that would work too. I've also got Jason Owe on my board as well. Jason Owe on my board as well. And I've also got Boogie Basham as well, that they could easily take those kind of guys. I just think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a better kind of player for them just to plug in. And it's not like they're weak at linebacker, but if you had to pick out a few weaknesses, then linebacker may be it. If you're going against the Chiefs, you want a linebacker who can help cover Kelsey as well as. You want a top linebacker. If Xavier Collins falls to them, then they'll take him as well. And that's the kind of play that you want. Jalen Phillips can also play linebacker, I think, outside linebacker.
Yeah, I think he's a versatile player. I think that they can't go wrong. And I also think with the team they have, let's build that defense, because sure, you could use some depth on the offensive line. But again, we talk later rounds, build depth. Yeah. Their receivers, as long as everybody stays healthy, that receiver room is as good as it gets in the NFL. They got great tight end, two-headed running back.
According to PFF, PFF say the Cowboys is the best receiver room.
Well,
in the
I didn't
NFL.
say they were the best. I said that they're as good as the best. And PFF is really, in my opinion, overgrading Amari Cooper. But
yeah, I don't disagree with you.
and
But
I'm not
anyway,
trying to sit on Amari either in the same breath. But keeping with the draft and the Baltimore Ravens, so what do you think they do? Do they give Lamar some help, or do they build up that defense?
So they picked up Sammy Watkins, right? That's done and dusted. So they've picked up. I for some reason I couldn't remember. But I went off the grid when that happened, and Sammy Watkins.
I think
got
so.
taken.
I know that they had
definitely
a real
did.
hard time where no receiver wanted to play there. Even what's his name from TY took less money and a shorter deal
to play for the Ravens, and that's because they don't have enough snaps once you take it out of their running game to spread it out to any wide receivers who want to be the main focal point of the team. But you have Hollywood Brown, you have Sammy Watkins. Now go get a big number one target, and that's Terrence Marshall Jr. Now, he isn't necessarily the best wide receiver that's left, right?
Actually, he is so underrated, it pisses me off, and that's exactly who I got going here, too. I wrote down yesterday when I was going back through my mock, and I said to myself and wrote down, he is so underrated, and he's not getting the credit because of the studs he played with in college.
Yeah, and it's and because of the guys that are also going in front of him. It's that, like that there was amazing players, amazing wide receivers all over the board here. And Terrence Marshall Jr. is like, he's the kind of guy that Baltimore Ravens offense will be missing. And also the thing is, the draft is incredibly un-American, so the guy doesn't have a choice for 4 years. So the guy doesn't have a choice at all. So even if they are spreading out, there aren't enough snaps to go around for the wide receivers. It's not like he can say anything,
Right.
Only Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown can say anything.
I go back and forth with Ravens fans online because they're like, we need a number one receiver. We don't have a number one receiver. We need a 1,000-yard receiver. Like, you have one. His name is Hollywood Brown, and this is not a shot, but that is not your quarterback's game. Yeah. I don't care if you have Randy fucking Moss. You're not going to have a 1,400-yard receiver. That is not how Lamar plays football. That is not how that offense is set up. And I'm not taking a shot at Lamar. I like Lamar, right? And I'm the first one to admit I misjudged this kid coming out of college 100%. But I don't care who you have there. You're not going to have a 1,400-yard receiver. It's not how it works. You have a number one in Hollywood Brown. I feel like you're bringing in a kid who has a chance to be a number one, if not a very solid number two. But as a Ravens fan, you need to temper your expectations because Lamar's going to run so much. You're a run-first team that your passing game comes in big chunk plays. You're not going to have it, and it's a very tight end-driven one. So it's not a shot at Lamar. It's not a shot at the receivers. It's just not the offense Greg Roman runs.
And it's not necessarily that Lamar couldn't do that. It's just, why would he? Like, you're already scoring a ridiculous amount of points. Like, why do you need Lamar to do that? But if you give them a big body receiver like Terrence Marshall, when they get into those situations of the run's been totally taken away, you have another weapon, and it's a guy who can just go up and win a ball as well. And not that Hollywood Brown and Sammy Watkins can't do that, but imagine those two flying on the outside and then the big body, but who can also take you deep. Terrence Marshall, he's not slow, is he? But he can also take you deep. He's a big guy.
I feel the need to defend Hollywood Brown because I think he's a better receiver than he gets credit for from his
I think if you
fans.
plugged Hollywood Brown into a lot of other teams, he would be considered
Green Bay, Kansas City, give him Tom Brady. I'm just saying, you give him an elite quarterback, and this guy's a number one receiver. That's all I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've picked another wide receiver for the Saints. I feel like Michael Thomas is like not necessarily like, he might be moving on. Maybe like they've had a few problems.
He didn't seem freaking happy with the Saints.
He doesn't seem happy. He doesn't seem happy, and they've lost Emmanuel Sanders as well. And Kadarius Toney is sat there still to take, and Kadarius Toney is a very talented wide receiver, and he's very high on a lot of boards, and he's above Terrence Marshall Jr. on a lot of boards. So I think the Saints aren't upset if Kadarius Toney falls to them and they take him. I mean, there are other needs when you look at the cap room issues for the Saints, but I feel like they're more of a coaching team. So develop those needs in their second, third, fourth round. Like,
and if you want to move on from Michael Thomas next year and free up that money to have it, that fixes a lot of your cap needs, bringing in a guy. We have the same position, just a different guy going to the Saints. And I got Elijah Moore, wide receiver, Mississippi.
Yeah, I was thinking.
And that just because I think he fits with the way Jameis Winston plays. That was my train of thought, but I don't think you can go wrong either way. And I think we're both on the same wavelength when it comes to we're not sure how happy guys are with you right now. And if Jameis is going to succeed, give him weapons.
Yeah, and then by putting Elijah Moore in there, you have a more gadgety kind of wide receiver, don't you? That
he's got some
help, like
tough as hell.
Yeah, and Elijah Moore runs a lot of jet sweeps, right? That's the guy we're talking about. Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, he needs some technical work, but again, I trust Sean Payton's offense. I trust Sean Payton's coaching. I trust the coaches Sean Payton puts around him. So therefore, I feel like they'll get the best out of a guy. He can be your return guy, your punt, you know what I mean? I think he fixes like 3 holes right away for you was my thought process.
Yeah, and he puts him in, like, he can get him into those situations, that work for him. And then the Packers. Now, I said when we were doing off-season needs for the Packers, I went, pick whoever makes Aaron Rodgers happy. All the guys with the potential to make Aaron Rodgers happy that are good value in the second round have gone. They're off my board, apart from Taven Jenkins, who's still there. So I've said Jason Owe is somebody that they could get to actually improve their team. And it doesn't sound like they're that bothered about making Aaron Rodgers happy anyway. So you may as well just go get your pass rush sorted, We just posted a video today about Rodgers and his future with the Packers. And I shit all over the Packers and said they have to draft somebody for Rodgers in the first couple rounds. And I have the Packers taking Taysom Campbell, cornerback, Georgia. So as I shit and screamed and stomped my feet that the Packers need to take a weapon for Rodgers, I don't have somebody sitting there that's not a complete reach. They need cornerback help. I know that they brought King back. People aren't really a fan of him. Javari Alexander is a good corner, but he needs some help. Yeah, I think that their secondary is lacking, and I think this kid can ball out for them. Yep. So I picked Taysom Campbell. And it's not the same as taking like Jordan Love. It's not the same as that. Picking a defensive end or a cornerback at this pick, if there's nobody there for them to take. If Terrence Marshall Jr. or Kadarius Toney fall to that point and they still take either of those guys, Jason Owe or Campbell, then you're thinking, okay, Rodgers is going to be pissed. But at the same time, I don't think they care. Like, it doesn't look like they care from the outside. I think they would jump on Elijah Moore because of his skill set with Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones if he's still sitting there. And it's very possible the Saints do not take him, and that's somebody the Packers could take. But because of the way my board fell, the best player for their needs to me was a corner. Yeah, I've not actually got Elijah Moore in the first round. I think he's more of a second round wide receiver. Just like Rashad Bateman. It's not that I don't like the guys. I just think they're both a bit of a reach. There's a few questions about their game, like can they play on the outside? Like you want your first round wide receiver to be able to do it all, which makes sense at the Saints. And also the Packers makes some sense as well. Right. That's why I have them like slated to those type of teams. Slot guy can be your return guy. And I know with the receivers, man, if you look at everybody's mock drafts, like they're all different on who's in the first round, who's in the second round. Yeah. I've seen guys that some analyst had at the end of the first round and other analysts had the end of the beginning of the third because there's so many wide receivers and it's almost like pick your flavor. It's not like there's this guy's better than this guy. It's this guy does this guy does this. So it's almost a pick your flavor type of thing. Yeah, and even if it even looked like they cared a little about making Aaron Rodgers happy, then I would say, right, reach, take Elijah Moore, take Rashad Bateman. Like there are guys that are there that are talented wide receivers that they could take, but they won't take them because of who the Packers are. That's just who they are. They're going to improve their improve their edge for me with Jason Owe, who's still on my board. Azeez Ojulari's still there. They could take him. Boogie Basham, who you know I love, he's still there. He's still there as well. And talking about Azeez Ojulari, I've got him going to the Buffalo Bills to improve their pass rush as well.
Well, a team that now talent, we both agree, but a team you like better than I do personally, and
Yeah,
it's only
I love the
because
Bills.
it's only because I'm petty and fuck Stephon Diggs. I got Buffalo replacing Stephon Diggs with no, I'm just kidding. I have Buffalo taking cornerback, your guy Caleb Farley.
Yeah, now Caleb Farley is a great fit for them. Obviously, he's already off my board. I felt like the other cornerbacks were a slight reach when you look at what's left on my board. Like, I wouldn't hate taking any of the other cornerbacks there. I was trying to be like, oh, let's take this guy. I can't remember who. Chris Sims has a total outsider on his cornerback board, and I can't remember who it is. But like, it makes sense taking a cornerback there. Caleb Farley, if he comes out and he's not injured, he is an easy top 10 pick. Like, it's the injury that you're freaking out about, and you think, well, if the Bills can get their secondary tick in, they're in for a fun ride this season. And I mean, if they fix either of those, they were the two things that we said they need to fix at the start of this offseason, the pass rush or the secondary, whichever way around they do that, first or second round, is good for them. They're looking to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Whoever helps them beat the Kansas City Chiefs the best, that's who they'll pick. And Caleb Farley can definitely cover a lot of guys in the NFL.
Well, speaking of those Kansas City Chiefs, picking at number 31, I am taking a guy. Now, I'm not saying he is the best player in the draft, so I want to put that out there, right?
Yep.
But I am taking a guy that I believe from day one will start and will be a Pro Bowler from day one. The best center I have seen come out of the draft in years.
I love this pick.
Landon Dickerson.
I absolutely love this pick. I've got him up on my phone just to remember to talk about him. I haven't picked him, but just to remember to talk about him, to say, look out for these guys who haven't made it in the first round, who are not in positions that usually make it. And I think if you want to make Aaron Rodgers happy, then you could take him at the Packers. If you wanted to, like, same with the Bills, there are plenty of teams that could really do with him. I mean, even the Cowboys, man, like, if you really wanted to, I think if he falls into the second rounders, falls in the Cowboys' lap, then he's there.
This is a guy that if
Great
somebody
pick.
took at 12, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like, people will slate them, like, what are you taking a center at 12 for? But he's possibly the most talented,
the best
offensive lineman
coming out of college.
Yeah, possibly the most talented. Never mind center. If you took them position for position and said who's better at their position, Landon Dickinson or Penei Sewell, who has the least holes in their game? I'm not saying you wouldn't take. You would obviously, if the Bengals.
I agree with where you're going. You're saying Penei Sewell is a better player because he's a left tackle.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm at.
But if you're asking who right now is a better player, it's Dickerson, and I get your point.
Who right now comes in and plays center?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he only gave up one sack last
year. It's something ridiculous. He's a crazy guy, and Landon Dickinson. I love the pick. Yeah, I absolutely love the pick. I love the pick, and I've got them fixing their offensive line. I've got them taking Taven Jenkins. Is the guy who I've got.
I got no problem with that either.
Yeah, but I kind of wish I had the courage to put Landon Dickinson in there. Now, I think I want him to fall to the Cowboys a little bit too much in the second round.
I feel like it was a travesty if this kid made it out of the first round. And
yeah,
and people go, you don't take centers in the first, but you do if they're good enough. I mean, the Vikings took Bradbury at the end of the first round, and he's going to be their center for 15 years. You do see it. And I mean, I've watched your Cowboys take Fredrickson when people go, don't take him that high. And as an offensive lineman.
And without him, where's their offensive line? Like, it's around the same offensive line just without him. I called it as well. I said, now he's gone, we're screwed. And it's not necessarily just the talent of the center, but the center is your quarterback of your offensive line. And Landon Dickinson works there really well. Taven Jenkins also works there really well. I think he's like almost a safer pick, if you get what I mean, for the Chiefs. Taven Jenkins, but I love the pick of Landon Dickinson as well. And whoever gets him in, I doubt he'll go to the Chiefs. Personally, I don't think they'll say, let's make this play. But whoever he goes to, if it's in the second round, if he somehow makes it to the third round, which will be crazy, has got a great center straight off the bat and has really improved their team. And
if
finally,
he makes it past the first round, it's just a travesty. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I could see him top 10 in the second round is where I've probably got him going to. The Jags, oh my God, get him in front of Trevor Lawrence, actually. The Jags at the top of the second round. Yeah. Anyway.
Super Bowl champions.
The 32 pick in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded out of this and somebody came in and took like a Kellen Moore or a Kyle Trask, like that kind of aggressive move from a team. Like I'm at, like, say for some reason the Broncos say, well, we're not big on the guys who are left there. Let's take Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley and then pick up a Kyle Trask, a Kellen Moore, Ian Brooks, a massive reach. Like, they're all reaches, aren't they? They're all reaches to take them. But this is the kind of place where you would, just to make sure that you get them. And the Bucs could trade out, but I've got them staying there, and I've got them taking Boogie Basham.
I think this is a great spot for somebody to trade in for a Kellen Moore or whoever you think, in case you want that fifth year, or for a team that said, oh shit, this guy fell. We had him ranked 18th. Let's go back up and get whoever. But since that is so hard to predict with the last pick, I stuck with Tampa Bay and I have him taking Najee Harris. Yeah,
that makes sense as well. They're just in a position, take the best player on the board. I suppose that if you really wanted to give it a weak point, it would be the defensive line. So go take Kalash Basham. Like, there may be like Pierre Paul's a bit old, and Dominican Sue's not the youngest. Like, they're bringing back Shaq Barrett, who was good at Tampa, but before that wasn't incredible. You know, like, so Boogie.
I've actually seen people saying that they've got Tampa. I forget his name off the top of my head. Clemson's running back. And having Najee falling in the second round, saying that he's the second best running back in the league. I disagree. That's why I put Harris there.
Yeah, I know Mel Kiper put St. Etienne at the top, didn't he? But in 32, Najee Harris fallen into the second round. I think Najee Harris is a bigger playmaker by himself, you know?
I agree.
But I think if you put Boogie Basham in there, you have the kind of guy who is just like raw, just a ball of raw talent and like raw energy. And if you put him in a room with Pierre Paul and Shaq Barrett, then he learns how to play the NFL game. And the Bucs are in a strong position, the Bucs are in a strong position, whoever they pick. Even if they decide to drop out and move towards the top of those second round or even midway through, like you could see the Bears making an aggressive play. The Washington football team, if they don't do the most aggressive play and go to fourth, you could see them making the aggressive play to take Kellen Moore, that kind of move.
JPP and Shaq Barrett ain't getting any younger as good as they are, so it's not a bad move to get a guy to learn from some real studs and move forward.
And just some serious raw talent as well. Like Boogie, like you have guys that are like young and talented, but then you have guys who are young, talented, and just raw. Like you know, when you see a guy and you're like, why are you doing it that way? Where if you did it this way, you would be so much better. Boogie Basham has all of that. Like, you know, it's the same as why you pick Penei Sewell over Rashawn Slater. It's not necessarily that Rashawn Slater is a worse offensive lineman than Penei Sewell, but Penei Sewell is as good as Rashawn Slater and has things he can work on. Whereas Rashawn Slater, you feel like obviously hasn't reached his ceiling. He's just coming out of college, but like there's not technical issues he can work on. Whereas Penei Sewell has technical issues he can work on. Right. And the Bucs are in a strong position, whoever they take, to be perfectly honest.
And for anybody who's watching, just so you know, the first 16 we did before Sam Darnold was traded.
Yeah.
The last 16 we did after, but don't worry, me and Maddie are planning on giving you one more mock draft before the draft.
I love doing mock drafts. We could have one more. We could have two more. You know, all sorts of
right. But we're
craziness
going to try to get you another one so that we can bring in all the trades that have been made and anything we may learn moving forward. This is the time of year where you start to hear weird stuff like a guy's moving up or a guy's moving down because they heard some off-field stuff. And a lot of it's bullshit just to get other teams to not draft them.
Justin Fields.
Maddie will understand the whole Landon Collins thing was awful for that kid. They cost him millions and millions and millions of dollars by putting his name in some bullshit he had nothing to do with before the draft. Yeah. So exactly. It can happen. It's awful. They cost that kid $20 million by doing that.
It does happen. It's awful, but again, the draft is entirely. I don't particularly love the draft as a way of picking out your young talent, but it is fun for us to sit there, and it makes the league more even. Like otherwise,
it's fun for those players too because they get a team pick them. You know what I mean? They got drafted.
Yeah, but there are teams like the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Packers who have like history and could just go get any college player that they want.
Well, that's the thing. And that's why they have never grew up with the choice. So they're excited just to be drafted. Makes it really exciting. And whereas
in the UK, Man United, Man City, they have the money. So they're the top two teams in the Premier League. You know, like that's how it's like it works here.
And the Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly. Very similar.
Except there's a draft, but Major League Baseball draft is weird as fuck. So
yeah, exactly. Whereas like Man United have an amazing football academy, so they get the best young players come through to Man United all the time and that kind of thing. Just to finish off, any players that you've said haven't gone in our first round, but definitely first round talents outside of Landon
not a talent, and I'm spacing his name off the top of my head, but you guys can all go look up the Tulsa D tackle. That kid is not getting enough credit, and I really like him. But your boy Phil Simms is huge on him too, so go check him out. He is going to be like a steal of the draft in the late rounds. I just can't believe I spaced his name. But all right, everybody, thank you for checking us out. We're going to let Maddie get out of here because he's got a podcast on the Travel Story Society. So if you're into travels, go check Maddie out on the Travel Story Society. It's a great podcast, and you can read different things on their website also. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.